Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Allison.
Welcome to another episode of Simply Sapphic.
A little disclaimer, if you're watching on YouTube, ignore the sign behind me. We rebranded after recording this episode.
And today we're going to be talking about building community.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about like stepping into the queer community, how you find queer community, but also like if you can't find queer community that you're the kind of queer community that you're craving, how to build it.
So this is like our friend episode, how to find friends.
We're just going to call this Friends, and we're going to have the Friends logo. How to find friends like friends.
I love that. Okay.
Honestly.
New t-shirt idea?
New t-shirt idea. How to find queer friends. I don't think I would wear that shirt.
I don't think I would wear that shirt either. I'm not going to lie.
It's so funny. When I was living in Santa Barbara for about 7 years of my life, and my roommate and I, at the time, a good friend of mine, we lived together for 5 of those 7 years. And actually, we lived together for 6 of those 7 years. Crazy. Anyways, so our entire purpose for existing was like, we want to find a group of friends like How I Met Your Mother.
Oh my goodness.
That's all we wanted.
Incredible.
And I think that that's all anyone ever wants, because I've bonded with so many people over the fact that like, oh, we don't have that like tight-knit group of adult friends that like show up to each other's houses and take care of each other's kids without asking.
And like date each other.
We don't want that. Awkward pause. Complicated.
Yeah, a little messy.
Very messy. But
every now and then emotionally volatile.
But you know what? Dramatic enough for the screen.
Yeah, yes, intriguing enough. I want a friendship that's dramatic enough for the screen.
New goal.
Yeah.
You know what? This is what I want for our relationship. Okay.
Dramatic enough for the screen.
No, I just want our relationship to be cozy.
That's what kidding. I want. I'm like, no.
We're gonna be making dinner, and I'm gonna be like, no, don't get me.
Yeah, you like dramatically fall on the floor if I hand you like the wrong thing.
Oh my god. How dare you hand me a spatula? I wanted a spoon.
Oh my goodness.
Tune in next time.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting because when I first came out, I was like, oh, this is my opportunity. Like, this is like, I'm going to redo my friend group, and I'm going to look for queer friends.
Yeah, you were in your how you met your mother era.
Oh, yeah. How I met my queer community era.
My queer mother era, what?
My queer mother era. Okay. But, and so anyways, I was so hell-bent on finding friends, because I had been, like, my queer story is that, like, or like my closeted story was that like I typically didn't hang out with AFAB people because I don't know, I was always like, I had it in my head like I could never get it right, so I hung out a lot with guys because guys, I was like, oh, like there's no, like, I'm not attracted to you, like there's no sexual tension, and so I always felt more comfortable around guys, and it would always get so frustrating to me whenever my guy friends would be like, oh, I'm actually in love with you.
Classic.
I have a crush on you.
Yep.
And then I would get so angry. I'd be like, how
is that literally possible?
How is that literally possible? I remember, yeah, just like so frustrating. And so it was funny because I would look at these groups, and I would always crave friends with women, but for some reason it just never really worked out. And so I would see these big groups of women like hanging out together at bars or at picnics or whatever. And I'd be like, how do I find that? And I was like, I'd like meet like these AFAB friends, and I'd be like, let's hang out. And then meet my friends, and it just would all fall apart. Anyways, point is, when I came out of the closet, I started like seeing more of these gaggles of AFAB people and being like, oh, those aren't like straight women, those are queer people that I was craving. Yeah, and I'm not saying like straight people don't hang out together, straight women don't hang out together, but like the people that I would see is just like gaggles of queer AFAB people.
Incredible. And so
yeah, I was like, oh, this is what I've been missing. I love yeah, basically when I came out, I just realized like there's so much self-awareness in the queer community because you have to deconstruct so much about society in order to show up as your authentic self. And so I was just like, I went like headfirst into community.
Yeah, amazing. And okay, so something that like we can talk about, I think, in this episode is like, I think there's 2 forms in how to find community, like in person and online.
In person, online, or DIY.
I guess, yeah, like build your own community.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so when you first came out, like how did you go about finding people? Did you go for the in-person? Did you go online first? Like, what was your pathway?
I really think you can do both when you first come out. Like, I think it depends on where you're at, like
geographically,
yeah, physically, yeah. Where you're at physically, whatever, geographically. But like, if you're in a big city like Austin, New York, San Francisco,
Chicago,
Seattle, Chicago, you know, like Phoenix, you know, like
that Phoenix. This is surprising to me. I guess Phoenix is a big city.
These are just big cities that I know of.
I love it.
This is a quiz. Amanda's gonna name all the big cities.
Name every big city, Amanda. Go.
Yes.
By population.
Population. Yes. But yeah, if you live in a bigger city, you have the opportunity to find like probably in-person Sapphic events.
Like Austin has a zillion of them.
A zillion.
Sapphic hiking.
Sapphic. I don't know. There's just
book
like
clubs.
There's like recess.
Crafting.
Yeah, crafting.
Kickball.
Book clubs. Kickball. Like there's so
frisbee.
Like there's so many Sapphic events that you can find in Austin that aren't centered on alcohol, and I think that makes Austin, Texas really special. But going back to like, how do you find these events in your city? Like literally all I did is I was like on Google, on Instagram, on Facebook, on meetup.com, and I would type in Sapphic, Austin, Texas.
Wow.
And then I would see what that pulled up, and then I would, you know, take what I was interested in, and then I would go queer, Austin, Texas, see what that pulled up, you know, next, gay, Austin, Texas, lesbian, Austin, Texas, bisexual, Austin, Texas, you know, like, I think you can do it, like, however you identify, like, put in your identity, or even, like, if you really love crocheting or knitting, Sapphic, my city name, like, you can go, like, all these online spaces can, like, it'll like, bring forth in-person events.
Yeah.
And so I think going online and finding in-person events local to you or in the neighboring town is really how you find in-person.
I know a website that I was new to when I like moved to Austin and was like trying to find queer community was Meetup.
Yeah.
I had never heard of Meetup. I didn't even know what that was. And I typed in like queer book clubs and then like tons of them. I was like, oh my goodness. And I don't know why at the time I never thought to put Sapphic. And now I'm like, okay, like should put Sapphic. But I mean, I even like went to a book club and made some friends from doing that, from Meetup.
I mean, I think the reason Austin has a lot of like specifically in the name Sapphic groups and Sapphic events, I think because a lot of the event leaders and like queer space leaders realized that like calling something like a lesbian meetup is exclusive of the people they actually wanted to include in the space, you know? And I think now there are in Austin specifically like still calling themselves lesbian spaces. And I think something that I have noticed in Austin, I can't speak for the rest of the US and whoever else, you know, listeners may be, but like if you're still using like specifically lesbian, I would just be aware of exclusionary practices.
Yeah, because something I've learned is that lesbian spaces, because I'm also non-binary, some of them don't see me as a lesbian and don't want non-binary people involved, regardless of how those individuals identify.
Yes.
Yeah, so keep an eye out.
Yes, and I would say like if you even are like a cisgendered, you know, female lesbian, like think about if you want to support those spaces that are exclusive of trans people, exclusive of bisexuals, you know what I mean? Like we are all like Sapphic, and just going, I don't know, like if it's like a lesbian support group, I love this.
Yeah.
You know, because that's something that like non-binary pansexual people can't speak to. So if it's like specifically like a support group or something, like that's totally fine. But I think like for event spaces, like it's 2024, we don't need to be exclusionary anymore. Like use Sapphic or just call yourselves out.
Yeah. So like Meetup is a way that I've met people. I feel like Instagram is a big one,
which is so interesting because I've met newly out people and they're like, oh, I didn't even think to go to Instagram, but like Instagram is like the hub.
It's the hub.
Yeah,
it's where you can find, I think, like any event. Instagram's a really good one. I mean, even like y'all Facebook.
Yes,
with a grain of salt,
but also to like I feel like the hate for Facebook comes from like Gen Z and like millennial distaste. You know what I mean? So maybe like if you don't have a distaste for Facebook, then you can go to Facebook. I think that's great. Yeah. I think like if you want to, it's hard. At least for me, that's how I found it in person is I went online and found events, and then I found the dates, put them on my calendar, and then attended them.
Okay. Did you go by yourself?
Oh yeah.
How were you brave enough to go by yourself?
Okay.
I think this needs to be talked about because I am so scared to go places by myself. Like that sounds incredibly intimidating to me. How do you do it?
I mean, I am also afraid to go places by myself, but I have found it to be incredibly rewarding after the fact. And so what I do, because I have learned this lesson and because I know this about myself, is that it's rewarding if I just like do it. Is I kind of like just go like, okay, Amanda, if you were like extroverted and outgoing, like how would you show up in this space? If you wanted to make friends, like how would you show up in this space? And I would just go and just like pretend that I wasn't afraid. I would just be like, okay, I'm going to turn off my fear and just do it. And I think what helps is that I have a pep talk with myself that says, if you get rejected, it's okay. And so I do not approach someone if I am not okay mentally and emotionally with being rejected. So if somebody goes, oh, like we're actually like busy, like, you know, like we don't want to talk, then I go, oh, chill, cool, you know, and then I go back.
But you like prep yourself beforehand to be like, okay, like I'm coming into this space, I'm ready to make friends, and it's okay if some people aren't open to new friends today. Wow. Okay, that I literally think I sit in my car and I just go, don't throw up.
Oh my god. Which I think is also valid because it's like a different personality type, you know. And so like even if you need to bring like a friend with you,
that makes it so much easier for me. Or honestly, like my dog, funny enough, I have an easier time going to events with strangers if I can bring Ralph.
perfect.
Yeah.
I love this.
Bring your pet.
Wow, name drop your dog. Come
I know.
on.
My dog's name is Ralph.
But no, I really, it's just like, I think going in with like somehow comforting yourself, being okay, like, oh, I'm just hanging out with my dog. If I make friends, great. If I don't, great. If there's people here that I want to say hi to, great. But if there's not, I'm also okay. So going in with just like kind expectations on everyone around you, yourself, and like, yeah, the space.
Yeah, I also feel like it's okay to set yourself like a goal. I know something I used to do like for like New Year's resolutions was to be like, I'm gonna go into like a queer space and say hi to somebody I don't know. But it was like a very small, very achievable goal. I didn't have to be like a lifelong friendship. But I think even like if that helps you in these spaces, going in and being like, my goal today is to have fun and to maybe say hi to somebody.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think I want to start employing that.
Just like one little tiny goal. And then you sit in your car and you did it and you can be like, good job.
And like, don't be like, I'm going to go and I'm going to make a friend today. Just like, I'm going to go up at somebody and say hi. And then that's the checkbox.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah. Small, achievable goals.
Very small, achievable goals. Something that I think should be brought up. And I have a feeling it's going to be a touchy subject, so I'm a little nervous.
Oh.
But the amount of alcohol that is involved in existing queer spaces.
Yeah.
I know you have opinions on that.
I do.
It's just hard because like I think gay bars and queer bars are amazing. They're incredible, and lesbian bars themselves are like dwindling in number, and we need more sapphic bars. But I also think that just turning to alcohol and alcohol related spaces to find like genuine connection, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, not that anything is wrong with having drinks. We're not saying that you need to be like sober and have no drinks, but I think I mean, and there have been studies that have talked about this, like especially sapphic people have like a disproportionately higher alcohol related health issues later on in life, like liver problems, things like that. And so yeah, I think something that I'm very passionate about is decentering alcohol to make friends. Not saying you can't have a drink, but that's not the crux of the event. That's not the main focus. Maybe it's an accessory to the event, but like how do we create community in a space where that isn't the center and that isn't the focus? Because also, like, I want queer people to live a very long life and very like healthy lives, and I think that this is an element of our social gatherings that we can kind of take a look at and come together and say, okay, how can we build other spaces, you know, that also allow for our friends who are in recovery and our friends who maybe like don't actually want to be drinking, so they feel that they can make friends in a very like safe space where that isn't the center.
Like, as someone who was, I was a party girl. I don't remember college, you know, like it was really fun for me until it wasn't. I think over the past couple of years, I was in bars and clubs and I was standing there with my drink and just like looking around and being like, oh, I think I'm tired of like yelling at my friends over the music in order to try and connect. You know, I think I'm tired of just like needing alcohol to loosen up and like bust a move. And so I stopped drinking, and I would still show up and I'd be like, oh my God, bars are kind of boring. In my opinion, bars are kind of boring without alcohol.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think I need to think about this. But I was so grateful for Austin's Sapphic community because there's so many other options, you know, like Sapphic. Yeah. Like we named all of the things in Austin, like Sapphic hiking, Sapphic, like kickball, Sapphic. There are all these other things that are decentering and decentering alcohol so that you can actually form hobby-based friendships, which I think are stronger. Like I'm not like I had a friend in Austin, and we had a falling out because for many reasons, but one of them was like we didn't actually have a lot in common. The only thing we did together was drink. And I would go over to her house and we would hang out, but then I realized I was like, oh, I'm not really having a good time, and the only time we had a good time together was when we were like drinking.
Yeah, and drinking, like if that's the main center of the friendship, how much are you actually getting to know that person, and like what kind of friendship is that if the alcohol is to go away?
Yeah.
And what does that look like?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think like we're not here shaming people who drink alcohol. We drink alcohol.
We do.
You know, we go to bars, you know, like it's just, I don't know. It's just something that I've been thinking about, is just like, oh, okay. I'm really grateful to Allison's scene that there's spaces that aren't just queer bars.
Well, I even think about like our representation. Like when you see queer people existing as a group in media, it's like at bars.
Yep.
And it's drinking, and it kind of says like, okay, this is the only environment that you can make friends here, and this is what your friendships are going to look like, which can be isolating for people who that isn't their ideal environment.
Yeah.
That can be yours, fantastic. But I think like even it out.
Yeah.
You know, for as many bars as we have, awesome, amazing. Let's also have other spaces. Just so then, like, why not have the more options, the better.
Exactly.
The more the merrier.
And so I guess then that begs the question of like, okay, if you live in a city, I heard something a couple years about the Denver. I'm like calling cities out, but like somebody told me that they had a really hard time in queer spaces because all of them were bars in Denver. And so like, okay, what do we do in Denver? And this was a couple of years ago, so there could totally be.
Let us know if Denver has changed.
Please let us know. But like, how do you create spaces that don't already exist?
And I mean, that might go for also if you're in like a small town where you may not even have a bar.
Yep.
Like, what is that step?
Yeah.
I think, you know, sometimes going to your Instagram and starting there and like starting small. You know, if you want to do like a Sapphic movie night, start with maybe friends and then tell your friends they can bring Sapphic friends, and then it can kind of grow from there.
And you know what the beauty of Sapphic not being a mainstream word, especially in the straight community, is you can be kind of undercover.
Oh,
because
yeah.
you're like, I don't know what Sapphic means, and be like, don't worry about it.
It's all good.
It's all good. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So if you're worried about like being caught or being found out, Sapphic is kind of like secret agent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So like, yeah, you're saying if you're in a city where maybe you don't feel super safe,
like putting it online.
it online. Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. And it can start with like Instagram or Meetup.
Yeah.
Meetup is shocking. It's so easy to make an event, and you can just, or honestly, I see people on sometimes like I'll be on Facebook and I'll see people being like, hey, I'm meeting up with some people here. Anybody want to come?
Yeah, for me, Facebook is like, I don't know, I get invited to Facebook events and I'm always like, oh, if I don't know anybody there, I don't feel comfortable showing up. But
So
for
fair.
meetup.com, for some reason, Meetup, I'm like, oh,
Meetup feels official to me.
it feels like a bunch of like strangers, and I feel more comfortable showing up alone without knowing anybody to a meetup.
Because it feels like that's maybe more of the intention.
Yeah.
Where Facebook feels like, ideally, you're
Friends.
one of my friends.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
Yeah, but that's just me. But yeah, I mean, I really think that, like, especially if you're in a small town, like you can try building it, but also like there's so many online communities that are just like world and countrywide that you can join.
I mean, you started one.
Oh yeah, I
You
did.
started Sapphic Discord.
Yeah.
Is that Austin based or is that for everybody?
Nope, it is just local Austin based Sapphic people.
Okay, tell us about this, because I am like not a Discord person. That was like very new to my life like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So for us, like what is even Discord?
Discord is basically like a really nice way to have a group chat. Facebook, I'd be added to like Facebook group chats, and it's just like all one stream, and I would just get so overwhelmed. But in Discord, the way that we have set up this server is that you can join conversations and only be in conversations that you want to be in. So we have like, think of it, if you know what Slack is.
Oh yeah,
It's like Slack, but more like built for social settings.
gotcha. So it's like a chat platform.
Yeah, it's like a chat platform.
Cool.
And so when I was coming out, I found that like it was hard for me to sometimes, first of all, with my introverted self, like go to these in-person events, but I still wanted the connections. And so I was like, okay, like how can we all connect outside of these events? And how can introverts in the community find one another and still talk in between and like share information and share resources and just like have a community space? And so I think it was easier for me because I knew a lot of the people who ran the event pages with thousands of followers. And so getting people into the Discord when nobody knew what a Discord was, I just had my friends just make a story about it. Like, hey, there's an Austin Sapphic Discord. If you want to join, go ahead. And right now it's pretty much word of mouth. Well, we've got like 700 Sapphics in the Discord, and that includes like trans people, non-binary people, poly people, and they each of these identities has a channel to talk specifically about like things that affect. We have a BIPOC channel. We have all of these channels for people to talk specifically about their identities. But then we also have like a yoga channel. We have a gamers channel, you know, for people who like gaming. So it's kind of like an opt-in. We also have like question of the day. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And so like I created it just to be a space to like learn and share and be social outside of in-person events.
How did you start it?
I mean, I play video games, so I was kind of already on Discord. And I was actually at the time building a Discord for my apartment complex. And so I was like, oh, I could do this for Sapphic people.
Incredible.
And so I already kind of knew the logistics of how Discord worked, so it was kind of easy for me. And then yeah, like I brought in moderators. People were really enthusiastic about the space, and it just bloomed into this amazing community. And they even have their own meetups now. I say they because I have since passed off like the bulk of the torch to a really good friend of mine who is like, or like a friend of mine who's like running everything now. And they really just like are doing an incredible job taking the community and turning it into something amazing.
Awesome. So that's incredible, because I that's just more options then that people have to like start building community, especially if they feel they may not have one. Is that you can go to something like Discord, or like in the age of Snapchat too. Like I remember so many people making friends off Snapchat and things like that, which is like so random. It sounds so old, but like it shows that there's so many options and there's so many creative ways that you can start building these things. Yes,
exactly. And so like I think to wrap up this part of the podcast, like if you want to build your own community, it is so possible. Like go to Meetup, make an event. Yeah. And then see what happens. Maybe you have 5 people show up. Maybe you have 2 people show up. But that's a start.
Yeah, because I think there's a pressure, especially in media, right? It kind of feels like all of the fun, like the only way you're going to make queer friends is if you move to LA. Or if you move to New York. Or if you go to Seattle. Like if you go to these major cities. And if you want to do that, if where you're at is not working for you, you are more than welcome. Like go where you're best served. But also like there's a lot to say for staying and building. And because, you know, LA wasn't always that scene, you know, New York wasn't always that scene. These places are built. So if that's something you're passionate about, if you're like, I live in Alabama and I want to build the scene, do it.
Yeah. Also, we don't know what Alabama's scene looks
Not
like.
a clue.
So
Not a clue about what
you know
Alabama's
what I
scene.
mean?
It
But
might be thriving. We have no
yeah,
idea.
I mean, if you're in Spokane, Washington, do you know? I don't think I know about Spokane's queer scene, Sapphic scene.
I know since I lived there, they have like 3 queer bars now.
Incredible.
Which was like unheard of
Wow.
when I was but a wee child.
But a wee child. We both grew up in Spokane, Valley.
Washington.
Yeah. But yeah, I think what you just said is so beautiful. Like I think the exact quote you said to me the other day was like, there is an incredible bravery and beauty in like getting out of your city and moving to a new place that's your own. But there's also an incredible bravery and beauty in staying and building where you're at.
Yeah.
You know, if you're like, I love my city, but there's not a queer scene here, see if you can build it.
See if you can build it.
You know, or like work with other people to build it. Like it doesn't have to just be you.
Yeah. You can get a whole community, and then before you know it, it's real.
Yeah, and
it's in front of
Meetup and Instagram is free. Like you don't need to buy a lesbian bar, you know?
It's true. Yeah, you don't actually have to buy real estate.
Yes, you don't.
Yes.
You can just go meet up at the park.
Yeah. Okay, transitioning into potentially our scariest topic, which is that in order to kind of build community, we have to talk to people.
Yes. Oh man, do you consider yourself an introvert?
100%. I get all my energy mostly from my alone time.
Okay, I consider myself like an introverted or like an extroverted introvert.
Yeah, I like people. I like being around people, but to really recharge, I love my alone time.
Yeah. And so like you were saying earlier, like I'm gonna go sit in the car and throw up. Like
yes.
We wanted to like give people who also have social anxiety like a cheat sheet,
some tools, some ways to help ease the stress of saying hi.
Yeah. And so like
because I can't even tell you how many times like we'll see queer people in real life, and I mean I feel like it's parodied all over social media, but like, you know, you see a queer person, you just like whisper to yourself, oh my gosh, and then we don't do anything about it.
Oh yeah, okay, there's this like specifically, I don't know. Actually, we do know because we asked our gay friend, and this is not a thing, that like the lesbian freeze, like the sapphic freeze, where you see another sapphic person and you go, like, what do I do?
Yeah, it's like a panic.
Yeah, and then you don't say anything, or you like whisper to your friend, you're like, those are 2 lesbians over
yes there. Or like when we're holding hands walking down the street and we see another couple holding hands walking down the street, you and I just like frantically whisper at one another. And then like every now and then we'll make a little bit of eye contact.
Do we?
Sometimes. And then we like all scurry.
Yes. And you know what? You know what I love about this relationship is you and I will see that and we'll be like, you know what? I actually don't like that trend. Let's see if we can break it.
I mean, there was that one night we saw a couple, we were like at live music, and you like skipped over to them. You were like, we're gonna break this. We're gonna do it. Break the cycle.
I'm gonna say it was not that brave. Okay. We had been like looking, like the other couple and me and Allison were like looking at each other, like kind of like eyeing each other, probably doing the look, there's lesbians over there.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, but not actually saying anything. And so we go about our nights, and then Allison and I are like leaving, and then I'm literally like, oh man, we didn't even say hi.
We should have said hello.
We should have said hello. Like, we're a big community, like, but we all ignore each other because we get too nervous. And so as we walk out, we see both of them sitting on a bench, and I go, Allison, I'm gonna go say hi. I think I'm gonna go say hi. If I don't say hi right now, I won't. And so I, in my panic,
took off,
skip,
hop, run, jump, hop,
/ scream, hi. Lesbians never say hi to each other. So I thought, I'm not gonna yell into this mic, but so I thought we could say hi, and they go, huh? What?
It was the funniest moment. It was also like a moment that was so full of joy. It was so like joyful. Just so joyful. And then they're like, you're so right, no one ever says hi to each other. And it was like a huge bonding moment. Did we leave with best friends for life? No. I don't even know if we exchanged names, but it was just cool.
We didn't. The conversation was, you're right, like queer people don't really say hi to each other, and that's funny. Great, well, I hope you have a good night. I'll see you later.
And it was just something beautiful in that, because that's like all it needed to be, but it still felt interestingly like enough bonding.
Like, yes, it was a bonding thing, but also like I really think this is a stereotype that is so, not easily, but like it's free to break the stereotype. You just go up and say hi, and I'm like, man, we really, as a community, I think we need to agree to like
say hi.
Say hi.
That's what I'm saying. Like, even like the one goal, my goal today is I'm gonna say hi.
Yeah.
Like so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now how do you do that?
Okay.
Like, let's say you're at an event, you are at Sapphic kickball, Sapphic hiking, Sapphic knitting. How do you go to people? Like, what is something that you can say?
Something that has worked before for me specifically is like when I was first going to Cheer Up Charlie's, like one of our Sapphic bars, or our only Sapphic bar in Austin, like I would go up to people, and as a baby gay, I didn't feel the need to like out myself. It's like, hi, I'm a baby gay. I don't know anyone here. I would love to be friends. But just being like, hi, I'm new here. Or, you know, like,
Hi, I've never been here before.
I've never been here before. Like, you guys look really cool. I'm Amanda. Nice to meet you. You know? Or like you had mentioned like, oh, like, see if you can listen in on the conversation if there's anything that you guys have in common, or like pick up on conversations as you're walking past. And
if somebody's like talking about a movie you like or a TV show, you could always try to pop in and be like, oh, I'm super watching House of the Dragon.
Yes. I mean, somebody did that to us the other day. We were talking about a podcast that they listened to, and they were like, I heard you guys talking about this podcast. Oh my God, let's talk about it. And we ended up all talking about it.
Yeah.
And I you know, I think there is something to say that like not everybody is kind. But I think, like, you know, you just got to be prepared that, like, you going up to people and saying hi can be received or not received, and it's okay either way.
And that's also not a reflection on your worth as a person. Like, if you go up to somebody and it's not received, maybe unfortunately in a kind way, then that's just not the person for you.
Yeah.
And you don't want them as a friend anyway.
Yeah.
So that's okay. They let you know very early on.
Yes.
You know, and don't be afraid to try again.
Yeah. I just thought of another, like, platonic pickup line.
Oh my gosh, platonic pickup lines.
A PPL.
PPL with Allison and Amanda.
But just going up and asking for like directions or instructions, you know, like don't be like, where's the bathroom? And then they point you over there, and then you stop and talk.
You don't go.
Yeah, you don't go. But just like standing in line at a bar. I know we said like look for other spaces besides bars, but that's like what is top of mind. But like just standing at a bar being like, hey, what's good here? You know?
Yeah.
And then you can get on a conversation of like, oh, interesting. Like, I love those kinds of drinks, you know, and then you can kind of blossom the conversation from there.
Yeah.
Same thing, like, if you're at a library, like, if you walk up to someone, like, oh, is that book good? If they're holding a book, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, just kind of like basing it off of like kind of what you're doing or the environment is a really, really, really good idea.
Yeah.
I also think like it's so fair to be like, hi, I'm here by myself. I don't really know anybody. Can I hang out with you guys? I've had a couple people do that at concerts, and I have loved it.
That's the thing. It's so interesting. Our culture has shifted a lot from like people going up and approaching people, and then I think a lot of especially like AFAB people have been like, this is a boundary. I don't like that. Leave me alone. But I think it has also kind of shut down people who do it like genuinely politely and platonically without any expectation.
Yeah.
And so I do see like myself and the people who I've talked to about this phenomenon they're like, I wish people approached more. Like, oh, I wish that person would have said hi. And I think it takes like the extroverts who are listening to start making moves here and breaking this, like just going up and being like brave enough to see if you can hang out.
Yeah. Yeah. Just give it a shot. And like, even if you're the introvert, like if you're like me and this just brings you a lot of anxiety, start small. Just set a goal about like going up to people and just being like, hi, you know, and then after you do that, go home, get yourself a treat, like do something special for yourself. And then eventually like the courage will start to build up.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of transitioning a little bit. So something that I want to address that's a little bit vulnerable for me to say, but when I first came out, I was so like, I think I have trauma, like I've got abandonment trauma, and it adds to like this concept of lack in my life. And so when I was first entering the queer community, I think I was so like desperate for any kind of friendship that I really was accepting anyone without really paying attention to red flags, without paying attention to people who would mistreat me, without paying attention to like any toxicity that actually lent itself to my own demise, right? And so I think something that I want to bring up is, as you're approaching people and as you're on like this journey to redefine friendships and like, yeah, finding friends who are close that are queer or queer affirming, is to pay attention to like how they make you feel, and like actively look for the kinds of friendships that you want.
Yeah. You had mentioned earlier today when we were talking about this topic, like you did an exercise where you sat down and you said you like imagined like what friendship looked like to you. Like,
Yeah.
what was that? Like, what things did you come up with? What were you like in that process? Were you thinking about like hobbies, or like what were you thinking about?
Yeah, so I think friendship to me up to this point in my life has been like anyone who wants to hang out with me. I was bullied a lot as a kid, and so like I went into friendships and meeting people with the idea like, oh, you like me? Oh my God, you probably, if you like me and nobody else does, like I need to hang on to you. If you want to spend time with me, that's really rare. That doesn't happen often. So I'm going to hang on to you and kind of accept whatever love you want to give me. And so I sat down and I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I think I want to be pretty picky about the people that I let into my life, because I have been taken advantage of. I've really put up with a lot of shit with friends.
Yeah.
Or ex-friends. And so I sat down and I was like, okay, here's what is important to me. People who have the same, at least one interest outside of drinking that we can do together.
Great.
People who are like, who live with integrity, and they show by how they live, it's with integrity. People who like actively celebrate my wins, and I want to celebrate their wins and help them through their losses. It's like basically like an open, like they feel open to me. And then I was reading, and before this episode, I scoured the internet looking for this one article, because it was like 4 or 5 things that I was like, you should look for in a new friend. But one of them that really stuck with me is they're available.
Like emotionally?
Yes, and physically. Like I think that you can meet an incredible person and you can be like, I want to be friends with them so bad. But if they're not available to hang out with you in the cadence that you want to hang out, then like, I think you can't hang on to them as like a best friend potential.
Gotcha. So if you're hoping to see this person rather frequently and they only want to see you once a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
that,
like,
that may not
they
be the friend for you.
Yeah. Well, it's not about want, but it's like, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, it's hard to get like to where you are. It takes a long time. Oh, I'm busy with this, like if they're not available to hang out or do things with you, and you keep, reaching out to them, doesn't matter. They could be the kindest person in the world, and they, like you could be like, oh, I love them, they're incredibly amazing, but like if you want like a best friend, like they need to be available.
If you're looking for that in a best friend.
Exactly. And I'm talking about I'm not talking about like long distance best friends, like
that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, my sister lives in Seattle, so a bunch of my friends, I've got a bunch of friends in Seattle because we grew up in Washington, and so I'm like, you're not available to fly down, done.
Goodbye.
That's not what I'm saying.
But
I mean, like people who you like, the people who you want to spend time with physically, like they need to be available to do that. And so that really struck me really well.
Putting in like an effort to make time for you.
Yep.
Within their own boundaries. Awesome. That's great. I look for similarities in terms of like hobbies and interests, and I also look for like compassion. I'm like, I look for like big hearts. Like, are we kind? How do we communicate with each other? How do you communicate to other people? Like a really good indicator is that like we're at a restaurant and you're mean to anybody who works there, goodbye.
Done.
Like it will not work out for me. That it's just not a friend who I want to be near, or who I want into my life. So this is a great practice, like especially if you're maybe new at making queer friends and you're approaching it in a space of, which is nothing wrong with this, but in a space of like maybe approaching it in terms of lacking. Give yourself some time to sit and reflect and kind of know the friendships you're looking for as you go out. And I think when you start knowing, those people come into your life easier.
Yes.
And you're able to identify that a lot easier. And kind of the energy you're putting out will attract them.
Oh my God. Like so much on that. Like because of my trauma, I spent a lot of my life being like, I will be whatever you want me to be in order for you to stay. And I found that bled into my friendships. And so I was attracting people who wanted me to be whatever they wanted me to be. You know, those like energy vampires, like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I realized that once I started living authentically and being authentic to myself, like showing up and doing the hobbies that I wanted to do, like dressing how I wanted to dress, like communicating the way I wanted to communicate, and having opinions on the things I wanted to have opinions about, like a lot of people left my life, but that space from them leaving brought in a lot of people who were loving me authentically. And so
beautiful.
showing up authentically in your friendships, I think, will attract people who are authentic.
Who love you for you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, rather than who they want you to be.
Yes.
Wow. So it feels like we're at a good recap point.
Great.
So it sounds like there's a lot of ways to build community. You can find them online, Discord, Instagram, Meetup, Facebook, literally Googling Sapphic in your city.
Queer in your city, gay in your city, or bisexual, pansexual, whatever you identify. And also, like, one thing I want to say is that when you are closeted, at least for me, when I was closeted, I didn't see queer people everywhere. And so when I came out, I assumed that queer people, the only way I'd be able to find queer people was in queer spaces. But now I'm looking around and I'm like, queer people are everywhere.
Surprise.
So if you love pottery, go to your studio and just look at it with fresh eyes. Look at the people with fresh eyes and be like, oh, there's a queer person here.
There you go.
And then be like, hey, you know, like if you love playing rugby, I that's so random. You know, I'm sure you're gonna find some Sapphic people very obviously in rugby. But you know what I mean? Like if you really like rock climbing,
yeah,
you know, there's definitely queer people rock climbing.
100%.
So like I think that's the best way, is like go to the things you already love to do and then find queer people in those spaces if you want queer friends.
That's brilliant.
Because then you can go
rock climbing or
climbing.
play rugby or anything else.
Playing rugby.
Whatever you want to do.
Yes,
beautiful. So yeah, you can build your own. You can find people, go online, and just don't be afraid to say hi and show up with your authentic self.
Yes.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Awesome. Do you want to go into our
Sapphic fun fact? We have to sing it every time.
And like a little off.
Yeah. Okay. I think, did you go first last time?
I can't remember.
Do you want to go first?
I will. Okay. So I was Googling and I saw this thing that said in like 1970s, like the lesbian mascot logo was a lavender rhinoceros.
Okay.
Lavender, because lavender's like the like queer color. And then rhinoceros, the explanation was hilarious and I loved it. It was like gentle and majestic until provoked.
Oh shit.
And then it was like, it will mess you up.
Damn fucking right.
It didn't like totally stick. It wasn't around for very long but like in the 70s, like that was a pretty big icon for like Sapphic individuals.
Okay, bring her back.
I know. I was like, where is our lavender rhinoceros?
I love this.
Should we put that on merch?
I think we should. I can do that.
We can put on a little hat.
Okay, great.
What's
Incredible. Okay, so mine is, did you know that the mother of Pride, like the person who really like started the Pride marches and the Pride celebrations, was a bisexual woman named Brenda Howard?
Come on, Brenda.
If you literally Google the mother of Pride, it comes up with Brenda Howard.
Wow.
And it's so funny. They have this quote in this article I'm reading of her saying, "Buy Polly Switch. I'm not greedy. I just know what I want." And so
Let's go, like, Brenda.
Literally
come on, Brenda.
Yeah. And so like she was really at the forefront of the efforts after the Stonewall riots to create, like a year after that to create what is now known as the Pride celebrations.
Wow.
And so I love, like, of all of the identities, like it's what is it, the silent majority that is bisexuals? It's like if you don't think you're queer enough because you identify as bisexual or pansexual or whatever, or bi, poly, or switch, know that literally the mother of Pride is bisexual and poly and a switch.
You are valid.
You are
just
valid.
as you are.
Your
like, queerness is valid.
The most. Like you guys started this.
You are so valid.
So valid.
Amazing. Well,
Amazing.
that's the end of our episode.
That's the end of our episode.
Yay.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in.
Be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media,
And share episodes with your friends.
See you next time.